Hello, and welcome to the portal. My name is Stephen Jolly, and I will be your host on this first step into the portal. Now, today we're going to talk about Week 0 matchups that you should watch in the Notre Dame game and then the USC game. The reason why we want to watch them is they'll really give us signs as to how we should look for Notre Dame and USC's season to go based off of their first performance. For me, it's going to be a way to really gauge them versus some competition to see how these new pieces fit. It might not be how they look at the end of the year, but it will give us a better idea over the next couple of weeks what teams we can expect to see as they approach on the field and try and get better every week. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is the games that you need to watch in the first 2 weeks of college football. And there may be more games on that list than you actually think. And the reason why is some of these games I put on there are crucial games that could change some of the conferences because it could change how some of these teams' seasons go. Important matchups, things that really will build these teams' seasons in just the first couple of weeks. And of course, after we talk about that, we're going to go into Fandom. With a new season upon us, it's time for us to think about our sports fandom and how we approach the game and how we approach other fans. And sometimes not even just fans of the same sport we love. I think it's a great way for us to have that conversation as we get ready for a whole new year of college football. And so I know many of us are excited and ready for this to begin. Now, before we start the show and get into those subjects, the first thing I want to do is introduce myself. I am Stephen Jolly. And as you can tell by the Bobby Bowden poster above me, I am a Florida State fan. So if you're wondering who I root for, or where my bias may lie, yeah, it could be with Florida State. Now, if you want to say that some of my predictions this year are biased, by all means, you can call some of my predictions biased. You can even say that some of my things are wrong. I have no problem with that. I want us to have discussions. So if you say those things, be prepared. You will have to bring facts to explain why, because I'm going to tell you facts as to why I think it's that way. Just because I may not list everything in a video, trust me, I put in hours of research on many of these portals and predictions that I come up with. For example, the ACC breakdown that I tried to do probably took me close to 70 hours of research and probably 50 to 60 hours to put together. Now, granted, that's because I wanted to see how long it would take to type up a blog at the same time as doing a video, which I learned during the football season. If I'm going to keep up with most of the major conferences, I do not have the time for that. These are things that we're going to learn together. I'm going to get better. If there's something you don't like, you let me know. If there's something you think I can improve on, let me know. I want to improve for you guys. I want to make this the best possible show that you can watch to get the information that you need for college sports. So we're going to grow as a group. I'm already looking forward to doing some collaborations in the future with some smaller sports. Most of these podcasts are going to be podcasts centered around specific teams. I feel like that's the best collaboration for me to start with since I'll be covering many conferences. Just talk maybe smaller podcasts that cover just specific teams so we can have those conversations together about games that they play and maybe games about their conference. Now, where I want to see this thing go, I want to see the portal open up. The main part of this is I want us to become not just a podcast where we can get together and we can share our opinions and talk about it on social media after we watch the show. I want us to also be able to have a website we can go to. I've been sure I'm going to build a website. I'm still creating all the data for it. It's taken me probably all off season to work on this data. I'm still not finished. It'll probably take me towards the end of this year before I'm ready to launch. But I want a website that's going to be highly accurate when it comes to analytics and data that you can pull in the portal that you can't get anywhere else. I want people to be able to see where the success lies and where the failures are when it comes to the portal. And these will be true numbers. I'm going to put together a data system that I've been working on, and that data system is going to be able to pull just about anything someone can ask me. And I want to set it up on the page where people can do it for themselves. And so these are the things that we're going to move into going forward. And as far as the show, if you have suggestions or things you want to talk about, let me know. I'm always someone that's going to be looking for things to talk about that are current with the fan base and what I think the fans need to hear or discuss. Now, during the season, it's going to be obvious. A lot of what we're going to talk about is games. Now, any additional content I have on YouTube past the show is going to be specifically directed on matchups. I'll probably be doing some of the major conferences, maybe even major matchups each week, doing predictions, and you can follow those predictions to see if you're a betting person, to see how well I do, and see if you can score some money with some of the picks that I make, because it is something that I work hard on when I come to analyzing sports. I don't know if you were someone who watched last year. Me and my brother had a podcast called the ACC Guys that we did together. And at the end of the season, we both finished at close to 70% on our picks when it came against the spread and on straight picks. So we do pride ourselves on taking our time and trying to make the best objective picks going forward. And I will say this, it is trying at times, and it is difficult, but I feel like overall we were able to have some great success. And to me, I feel like that success could be shared. Now, what I want to do now, though, is go into the first thing we want to talk about today in episode 1 and really lay it out as far as the things to watch when it comes to Notre Dame football. Okay, the first thing we're discussing in today's show is going to be about Notre Dame versus Navy. This is a home game for Notre Dame, but remember, last year, this was an extremely close game. Notre Dame pulled it out 35-32. So for this first matchup of week 0, where we don't have but a few games for the opening weekend, there's still going to be some football games worth watching. Games that could have implications on the rest of the season. Reason for that is because Notre Dame has some changes. There's some new faces that could really make this team completely different in 2023 and maybe even make them a possible playoff contender. Now, when we discuss this, let's first talk about the game this weekend of Notre Dame going against Navy. The triple option gave Notre Dame a lot of issues last year. They had troubles adjusting to it, and Navy was able to stay in the game because of it. So when you watch the game this weekend at 2:30 p.m., make sure you look for some of the new additions that could make the difference in this matchup. The first thing is Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman broke the ACC passing touchdown record. And if he has a great year at Notre Dame this year, he could potentially set the Division I total passing touchdown record for college football. This would be a great feat for him, and if he does hit it, he would have Heisman-like numbers, which would make him one of the top contenders to win the trophy this year. Now, besides Hartman, we all know what he can do and what he'll bring to this Notre Dame offense. He'll automatically make the receivers better and more productive than they've been in the past because he will use the guy's size of most of these Notre Dame receivers to throw the ball into places where only his receiver can make a play. It's something Sam Hartman's done really well throughout his career, and it will be no different at Notre Dame. Another reason for success at Notre Dame, offensive line. Last year, there was a lot of turnovers for Sam Hartman. He was sacked a lot as well, due to the pressure he was under constantly by an awake offensive line that runs the mesh offense. At Notre Dame, we already know the history of their offensive linemen, what they bring to the table, how many guys they've had going to the NFL draft. I mean, the guys they've had that went on to other teams thanks to the transfer portal and have been very successful with those teams. Notre Dame has proven that they can build a strong offensive line. I mean, last year, they decided that they would just become a running team, sit behind that big, huge offensive line, pound away at teams, play good defense, and they started picking up some wins because of it. That being said, you give Sam Hartman time to throw the football, he will quickly show NFL scouts why he deserves to go to the next level. He's one of the top picks. Now, besides Sam Hartman, a receiver you should be looking out for is going to be Deion Colzie. I really think this is going to be a breakout season for him. I love his 6'4" size. I feel like towards the end of last season, he had some bright spots and moments where he showed his true potential. This could be the guy that could become the number one receiver this next year, and he probably won't even be a projected starter when the season starts. It's like he has the chance to really have a breakout year. Overall, I love the receiving core for Notre Dame. Most of these receivers are huge and physical. Yes, they do have a running back / receiver that they use underneath a lot, who's under 6 feet. But most of the receivers are 6'1" or taller. They have a huge receiving core. They also get back their leading rusher from last year, which will play huge dividends for them down the road. So again, the reason why I'm saying tune in and watch this game is because we want to see how much they've improved. I know it's just the first game of the season, but defensively, there's a lot of question marks for Notre Dame. Last year, they had games like the Navy game where they struggled to figure out the triple option. They had other games where they struggled in coverage and lost to USC. So we want to see where they improve in these areas. Notre Dame does bring back 5 of the 11 starters of last year. And more importantly, they bring back 2 guys from the transfer portal. And both of those guys in the transfer portal are graduate seniors. So that means they're getting instant experience with guys that have been in the game for a while. I think that this is really going to help Notre Dame's season. And on top of that, we'll get to see that this weekend on display as they go up against Navy.
This week 0 matchup is really important. What we're talking about now is USC versus San Jose State. I know what some of you are saying. USC should blow them out. Yes, offensively, with Caleb Williams and the fact they're bringing back their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th leading receiver, it should be an easy game, especially considering, even though they lost their number 1 receiver last year in Addison, they're bringing in Dorian Singer from Arizona through the transfer portal, who could easily be their number 1, as he put up number 1 numbers last year at Arizona. So, this offense may not even miss a beat when it comes to USC. It's loaded, and they are going to put up points. Now, the question mark for USC is, could the defense hold up? Will the defense show improvements and take a step forward this year? Lincoln Riley, of course, you know, is a fan of the portal. And he went out and got 9 new players on the defensive side of the ball from the transfer portal. 6 of those 9 are projected starters. So this is going to be a brand new looking defense, mostly built through the portal. It's going to be interesting to see if these guys can build some continuity and play together and see what we end up getting from these 2. I can't wait to watch this game because it really impacts how I predict the USC season to go. Right now, I don't have much faith in their defense, so I have them losing some games that could be wins if they turn it around and their defense plays strong this year. This is a team that can make the college football playoffs, and if their defense is just good enough, they could win it all. They'll have the offense that will put up the numbers. Arguably, any team could say Caleb Williams will be a favorite to win the Heisman. So, the reason why I brought both of these games up is obvious. These 2 guys will be names that will be mentioned in the Heisman race throughout the year. So it's a great look to see both of them play early. But it's also important to look at both of these teams overall, especially USC, as teams that could hit the college football playoffs and make some noise. This year, I think, would have been an amazing year for the 12-team playoff, because I can think of so many teams, which we'll go over next week, that could be in that top 4 at the end of the year. But if you had 12, you could even make a list of 12 teams that if the right things happen for them throughout the season, they're going to be a tough out at the end of the year. So as we look to the future, let's watch these games this weekend and see what we can get out of USC football and where they might go this year. I'm excited just to get to see some college football, and I know you are too. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the next thing. Now I want to talk about games that you should watch in the first 2 weeks. And there may be a few more on this slate than what you were thinking. I'll explain to you why I think each game is important, and there are games that you can't miss because they're going to really change the outcome of college football this year. It's going to change the records of some teams, and it's going to change how some teams compete in the conferences. So these are important to look at these matchups and understand these team matchups and what can happen. And the first one is going to be the first primetime game that really has big implications, and that's going to be Florida at Utah. For Florida, their season is going to hinge once again on this first game and whether or not they can make a bowl game and do better than was predicted 4 to 5 wins. Me personally, I have a different prediction of what I think the Gators will do, because I think that offensively they'll be just good enough that they should be able to make a bowl game again. But I don't think they're going to win at Utah. I could be proven wrong. So this is a game that you'll want to tune into on Thursday night, August 31st at 8 p.m. These two teams are going to have a dogfight in Utah. I imagine the Florida Gator defense is going to be much improved, but I don't think it'll be improved enough to be able to win this first game. As far as Utah, you know that they're going to hang on their hats on the defense. And then they're going to look to be offensively ready to put up the numbers. Now, the next game, obviously, there's one name that makes this a primetime game. And it's primetime himself. It's Colorado at TCU, and it's just a noon game on Saturday, February 2nd. Now, the reason why we want to watch this game, like I said, Deion completely flipped Colorado's roster using the transfer portal. With the transfer portal, we had about 71 players exit. We brought in about 56. That's the last time I checked. Numbers have probably changed since then. Hey, this is a guy that is completely trying to change Colorado from a one-win team a year ago. I'm not saying that Colorado's going to make the college football playoffs. I'm not predicting anything crazy for them. I don't even think they're going to make a bowl game. But I do think, looking at their schedule, if you watch the video of me breaking down the Pac-12, then you'll see where I predict them to fall. It will be a much improved year for Colorado. And this will be one of 2 games in an improvement. If they can beat TCU, start the season on the road, it'll be a huge step in a successful season for Colorado. It should be more than 1 win. And next game I'd watch will be at 7:30 on Saturday, September 2nd. And that's going to be North Carolina versus South Carolina. This game is extremely important for both teams as they look to both step up within their conferences and be bigger competitors. North Carolina needs this win if they hope to have a successful season within the ACC. I don't think they can afford to lose at South Carolina to start the season because I still feeling they're going to probably lose 2 to 3 games within the ACC itself. And so for them to have the successful season they're looking for, they need to win this game to put themselves on the right track. The real question for North Carolina is, will the defense be improved? Will they be better? These are all things that we can check out when you watch my ACC breakdown, which all my breakdowns for all the conferences are going to drop this week on YouTube as extra YouTube content. I didn't do it as part of the show because I don't really want it to be part of the show. The shows and episodes are going to be separate. Now, South Carolina, who's one support for them is same as North Carolina. They're going to try and make an impression in the SEC this year. I still think that they lose maybe even 3 to 4 games in the SEC this year due to their schedule. But for them, winning this game against North Carolina at home is a great start to the season and keeps things on track. They lose this game, we could be looking at a South Carolina team that's going to be struggling to make a bowl game. And that is not what they're expecting with Spencer Rattler coming back. But they did lose a lot of key guys to the portal, so I got some questions for that team as to what their future is going to look like. Now, another game to watch will be on at the same time, 7:30, and that's going to be West Virginia at Penn State. The reason why I say watch this game is because Penn State is a favorite of some people, and when you start watching my breakdowns, you'll see they're a favorite of mine to make some noise in the Big Ten this year. So they can't afford to lose matchups outside the conference. West Virginia is a team that could test them in the first game of the season, and if Penn State can show that they're making that step forward to be competitive in the Big Ten, should be able to win this game and pull away and win it by double digits or more. If they don't do that, then I feel like there's still going to be question marks going into the Big Ten season as to whether or not Penn State is going to make the step to improve overall defensively and offensively enough to be maybe the number 2 team in the Big Ten this year. Now, the biggest game of the first 2 weeks, and I'm not saying this is because I'm a Florida State fan, it's a huge matchup, and it's LSU versus Florida State. And that's on Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. in Orlando. I'm going to be at the game, so look for my Instagram, which I will put at the end of this video, and I will have postings from the game, live shots from the game, and then I'm going to have some other things going on while I'm at the game itself. So stay in tune and contact because I'm ready for a big weekend. It's going to be fun, exciting time for the fans, and this is a game you can't miss. This game last year was electric, and I expected this year to be no different. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think Florida State has just a little bit more talent than LSU, and they win it in the fourth quarter. But this game is going to be great. It's going to be back and forth. There's going to be 2 juggernauts battling it out because I feel like both of these teams could end up in the college football playoffs at the end of the year. Unfortunately, for LSU, I think this is more of a must-win for them than it is for FSU, even though people keep saying it that way. The reason why I say that is because FSU can lose to LSU, but if LSU is successful in the SEC, it would only help FSU if they can only lose 1 game. That would be the perfect game to lose. So, for LSU, though, it's more important. If they lose that game, the SEC is going to be tough. I really don't see them getting through it with only 1 loss with the schedule they have. So if you can't get through with just 1 loss, it's probably not going to hit the college football playoffs. So losing to FSU would put them in a position to where they would have to do something I don't think is possible. So for LSU, this is more important to them than FSU. I think it's reversed from what most people are saying. That's the way I would look at it, is because I think that just due to the scheduling that LSU has in the SEC, their schedule is tougher than some of the other teams, like, say, Georgia. So for them, it's more important to come out of that with a win. There's a big game on Monday night that a lot of people aren't talking about. And on Monday night, September the 4th at 8 p.m., is Clemson at Duke to start the season. Now, a lot of people aren't saying much about this game. But let me tell you, this game has big implications in the ACC. If you watch my ACC breakdown, you'll see why. And it's not hard to look past the numbers and find out why this is going to be a big game. Duke brings back almost everybody on that offense from a year ago. Most importantly, Riley Leonard, probably the most underrated quarterback in the ACC last year. If he has improved in the offseason in his passing game, this Duke team will be more dangerous than they were last year. He already has the ability with his heart to run and make plays and put it all on the line for his team to try and get a win. This is a dangerous game for Clemson. Clemson fans are talking about Florida State and how, they got to put them back in their place. And that's good and all. I better hope the team doesn't feel that way. Because they've got to prepare for this first game. And they got to be ready. Because Duke will be a team that can beat Clemson. This is not the Duke team of old. Elko has done an amazing job as coach. He won Coach of the Year, rightfully so. And this is a guy that will not stop it with what he did last year. They were supposed to be a bottom of the ACC team, and they ended up being a mid-level to high team. This is a team that this year I think can take that next step, especially with all the talent they have returning. If they could win this game at Clemson, or they could win this game at home versus Clemson, and trust me, you win this game at home versus Clemson, you're on your way to making some noise in the ACC. Even if Duke, the right things fall into place for their schedule, Duke could possibly get to the ACC championship game. Now, the very next weekend, September the 9th, on that Saturday, we have our first big matchup at noon, and that's going to be Notre Dame at NC State. The reason why this is a big game is NC State recently added Brennan Armstrong. Now, Brennan Armstrong's best season at Virginia, he threw for 35 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. Had a great year for over 3,000 yards passing. Things looked great for Virginia. In that same season, when he did that, he was with his current offensive coordinator, today. So, being reunited with that offensive coordinator at NC State could be big for Brennan Armstrong. The question for NC State is, who are going to be the receivers that step up and make plays? There's a lot of question marks there for them at receiver. But the one thing that isn't questionable for NC State is their defense. Their defense will be tough. But for Notre Dame and Sam Hartman, this will be the first true test for them on the season. They should have won their first two games handily, coming in 2-0. So for Notre Dame, this is huge for them to play a team that defensively can test that offense. And we'll see how Sam Hartman can respond with an offensive line in front of him. This is a matchup that I would be intrigued to watch because it really is going to determine how Notre Dame's season goes. If Notre Dame loses this game, then they're not going to be a title contender. It's too big of a loss. I don't think NC State's going to be a good enough team. It's also done within the year. So Notre Dame cannot afford to lose this game. Now, the next big matchup is going to be on 3:30 that Saturday, and that is going to be Ole Miss at Tulane. And the reason why that's big is because Tulane, was the Power 5 winner last year. They look to bounce back again this year and try to take back the Group of 5 crown again. So, as the Group of 5 winner, this will be a long way in the step of doing that. You have a big name SEC team at your house. And Ole Miss has been up and down last year when it came to their offense and defense. The offense sometimes was clicking and was doing exactly what they needed to do in their lane, and at times it just wasn't getting done. They couldn't convert on third downs, they struggled in certain key situations, and so that stopped the offense and stalled them out many times on drive. And defensively, like I said, they just weren't getting enough stops to get teams off the field, and it led to some blowouts and some bad losses. So this is a huge game for Ole Miss to come out and have to play an opponent that isn't a normal Group of 5 team that can come out and play you tough and will play you with a chip on their shoulder. But for Ole Miss, this is a trap game that they have to win if they want to be competitive in the SEC. Now, the next one will be a 7 p.m. game that day, and that's going to be Texas at Alabama. Round 2. Now, if you remember last year, Texas gave Bama the fight for their life last year. And if Rivers wouldn't have got hurt, he was on pace to have a really good game. I think that if he had stayed healthy, he would have come close to his pre-game prediction for what he told Alabama he was going to do to them. And which is surprising. I've never seen a quarterback come out and tell Alabama team what he was going to do to them and then actually do it. It shows the difference in what Alabama was last year. Alabama just wasn't the team that we've seen in the past. Mostly because of penalties. That's going to be the big question mark this year. Can Alabama avoid the penalties? And it starts in the Texas game. Because if that begins to be a problem again for Alabama, then you're probably going to have another 2 to 3 loss season. It was unlike any Saban team we've ever seen before. They finished near the bottom of the country in penalties per game. We've never seen a Saban team get penalized that much. But what we also seen is Nick Saban, being the GOAT that he is, you may hate him, especially if you're a fan of a rival team or another SEC team, but you have to respect him. And the fact that he adapts with the game. And he may not like the transfer portal, but this year he went and hit the transfer portal heavy, trying to make improvements to his team so they could be competitive again and win the SEC. And that is what Nick Saban does. He may take something that's controlling the game, and even if he doesn't agree with it, if he thinks it's something that can improve his team, he will make the adjustments for his team to use that same thing to make his team better. And so, to me, being someone who's a big component of the transfer portal, I love seeing someone who's a great coach like him that uses it to his advantage. And then the last game that I would say watch during the first 2 weeks is going to be on that same Saturday night at 10:30 p.m. You're going to have a matchup of Auburn at California. And why is this big? Because Auburn is coming back. Hugh Freeze is back in the SEC, and we all know what he did last time. He was definitely someone who made his team competitive, especially against Alabama. Before anybody else did it, he was the first coach to beat Alabama in back-to-back seasons. He is a guy that can definitely change the recruiting landscape for Auburn and get them back in the competitive side. Now, for this season, I think that they can be a really good team. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to win the SEC. That's too far out there. But winning this game at California on the road would be a huge step forward for Auburn. And it's a huge step for the SEC, considering the SEC does not usually travel, especially all the way up to the West Coast. And now this will be the second game in the first 2 weeks of the season where we see them do that. So, great game, great matchup. I think Auburn should win it, especially with some of the pieces that have left California. But this is a game where they need to win it. I think it really helps Auburn build their confidence. They should win their other games out of conference for the most part. So this ends up being a good situation for them where they can go into the SEC with some wins. And then all you gotta do is get a couple wins in the SEC and you're already bowl eligible. So look for Auburn to use this as a chance to really prepare for the rest of their season and make themselves a better team overall. So that's my game for the first 2 weeks of college football that you should keep an eye on. There's more games. There's more teams out there. If your team's playing, yeah, you're going to watch your team play. I know I am. I mean, I'm going to watch Florida State play Southern Miss in week 2. So that's my team. But don't think that I won't have other TVs on. I won't be watching these other games because that's what I do. I watch multiple games at one time because I want to see as much of the action involved because I'm a fan of college football. Which brings me to the last thing that we're going to talk about today. Now, for the last segment of today's show, what I really want to discuss today is fandom. And we're going to talk about what that means to each one of us. First of all, I'm a die-hard fan of Florida State football. But I'm also a die-hard fan of college football. There's nothing I love better than setting up for a weekend of college football, food and drinks in hand, ready to watch the games unfold for the day. Making predictions and all this other stuff is fun. Following recruiting and different things that we're going to talk about on the show. But the best thing to talk about on the show is the games and what we get to see, what we get to do. Like me going to the Orlando game, how I'm going to fill my Instagram and my socials up with interactions that I'm going to have at the game. Like, I love the opportunity to be able to go and see these games in person. And I love the opportunity to be able to sit at home and watch multiple games at the same time as well. Or if you're a person that likes to go out to a bar, I remember those days as well when I would go out, sit all day at a bar with multiple TVs, and we were watching almost every game that was on at the same time. College football has always been something that you feel like you just can't get enough of if you're a true fan. I know there's other fans out there that feel the same way as me. Yeah, there's some dark sides to it as well. Sometimes as fans, we get into it a little too much. As fans this season, let's try and be a little more respectful with each other. Cut out some of the toxicity. Don't get to the point where you're going to poison someone's tree just because you want to get back at your rival that bad. These are the kind of things that toxicity is too high, and it goes too far. I see a lot in social media as well, the throwing of insults. It's okay if you want to joke or kid with somebody. I love to joke. If you're on the socials, you understand and you see. There's a lot of jokes going back and forth. It's a lot of fun. But at the same time, when you're throwing actual insults, you got to be better than that. We got to be more true than that as fan base. And there's a time when you can have fun with people, but there's also a time when you're really just trying to make a stab because you don't like a point. So what I say to the people who are out there with fandoms, especially when it comes to college football and the fandom that we have of people that love this sport, is be respectful of one another. I'll give you a good example. Uncle Freddie Paul was probably the biggest Florida State football fan you'll ever meet. I mean, he grew up in this area of small town Lake City, Florida, that very few people outside the state would probably know. This man impacted so many lives across the state. I remember the governor showed up to his viewing when he had passed away. But when it came to tailgating, there was no one like him. His fandom was amazing. Like, his tailgates were ridiculous. There was so much food. FSU music blaring. He had a special disc of FSU songs that someone had made where they rewrote other songs to match FSU. He had marching band CD. He had everything FSU he could possibly play. He had FSU stuff everywhere. Flags, spears in the ground. Everything he could decorate that area with for the tailgate area. But I remember at the same time, even if Gator fans were around us tailgating, he would invite them over, let them have a meal. Well, he took the time to tell them how bad his team was going to beat theirs. And that's the kind of fandom we should have. At the end of the day, we should know we're all people. And that, when it comes down to it, we're all fans of college football. Yes, still doesn't mean that I don't think my team's going to beat your team. And that shouldn't change. But at the same time, people like him make a difference for other people. I remember one of the biggest Gator fans used to always show up and tailgate straight across from my uncle. When he passed away, had a special flag flying in honor of him. That's the cool thing to see when people can impact other fans across rivalries. That's the kind of impact I want to have. And I hope that you as fans look to have that kind of impact on people's lives as well. Now, beyond that, there was something I saw on Twitter the other day that I also want to discuss, and which brought up fandom for me and made me want to be a primary topic of what I talked about in the first show. And that's the fact that fandom outside of sports is also big. There was a video of a girl who was at a Taylor Swift concert, and she's going crazy listening to what she's listening to. And it was shared across certain sports medias who shared it across their social pages, and they were making fun of the person in the video for how crazy they were acting. But at the end of the day, sports fandoms need to understand that we may seem crazy to a lot of people. So there's no point in going over the border and talking about others. You all have probably had that wife, that girlfriend, or someone else you knew that was a female that did not understand why you were a fan of sports. So in the same aspect, we should show respect to people of other fandoms, like a Taylor Swift fan or whatever fan they may be. They're enjoying the moment of what they have. It's no different than you going to a football game and yelling and going crazy because you're in the moment, you're in the element of what you love. And that's what fandom is. So there's no point in ridiculing people that aren't part of the sports fandom. In fact, they're not even in the group of people that you're in. So they're not going to understand how you are, and you're not going to understand how they are. So at the end of the day, just be respectful to others and let them enjoy what they enjoy. Like my wife is not the biggest college football fan, but she loves going to games with me. And she loves the environment and the people that you can meet, the players. I mean, we have been fortunate enough that she has gotten to meet players face to face. I hope for the next year or so, maybe even I can bring it to the show. But I also know some coaches and would like to bring those interactions to the show as well. Because those are some of the things that, even when someone's not a diehard fan like yourself, it's nice for them to have those interactions, to get to meet some of these people that make the sport so much fun to watch. None bigger than the legend above me, Bobby Bowden. And you can't get any bigger than that legend. And for me, seeing that, seeing a coach like that, it makes me love the sport even more and want to be a part of a community that does the same. And that is all for the first episode of The Portal. I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for watching. Like I said, comment on YouTube or follow me on social media so that way you can comment and keep the conversation going. That's all I really want to do this for, is to build conversation and then for us to be able to talk together about the future of college football. So follow me on Instagram at Stephen Jolly ACC. Remember, I'll be posting a lot of live content from Orlando as I'll be at the Florida State LSU game. And then also follow me on Twitter at @SJollyACC. As you can tell, both of those handles when I was doing the ACC guys with a fellow supporter. So I am looking to continue the way of doing the portal. There is a Facebook page for just the portal itself, and I'll be sharing content on there as well. And like I said, I got more content coming out this week. Episodes will be posted every Monday for the show, just like they were tonight, around 6 to 7 p.m. And every other content will be randomly posted depending on what it is. Right now, the major conference breakdowns, those will all be posted by the end of this week. And each one of them will give you an idea of what I think each conference will do. Now, besides those breakdowns, another thing that I would like for you guys to check out will be during the season, I will be definitely doing regular content that will not be part of the show, but it'll be me going over matchups for the week. For those of you that like to bet on games, I don't like to brag, but I have been really successful when it comes to picking college football games, especially against the spread on moneyline picks. So I will do picks. I will pick certain games I'm going to go over because I'm not going to go over every game every weekend. That would just be too much. So I'm going to pick certain games that I will go over. What I'll probably do is I will be adjusting my top 50 of who I think are the best teams in the country throughout the season. And as I adjust that, I'm going to be able to go ahead and
use that as my basis for a lot of the games that I pick. Now, this will include a lot of teams that are already ranked in other polls, but it will also include some that aren't that could make their way in. So we'll make some predictions off teams that everybody will be looking at and talking about eventually at some point during the season. So I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos. I look forward to seeing your comments. Like I said, when you comment, bring the facts, because that's what I'm going to bring back. Trust me, I'm never going to be the person that's going to try and get in an argument with you or get mad at you for something you say. It's sports. Just bring the facts, because that's what I'm going to do. And let's have some fun. I mean, I'm the kind of person that you'll see on my socials. If you've been on there already, then you see how I love to interact and have fun. I'll make some jokes. I'll post some memes. Because to me, at the end of the day, it should be fun. I don't want it to feel like work. I want everybody to be able to enjoy this. So make sure you hit the like button on this video. And then also make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And I'll see you on the other side of the portal.